So we're going to go about, I'm going to draw a standing figure. It's going to be in the basic block in. I'm going to hatch it out and hopefully get to the shadow shapes, show you how to get basic shadow shapes over the form in the very simplest of stage. We're talking about the techniques. I'm going to try to talk about everything as I'm doing it. At the same time, I'm going to impart to you some very wise words of wisdom. It's more of a broad mentality that we have. It doesn't matter how you're constructing this, whether it's the sight size method, Loomis method, whether you're going from a life or a photograph. It's the mentality that I want all of you peasants to carry out in your mind of exactly what is we're looking at. And it's going to actually boost your work forward quite a bit. So without further ado, let's get started. We are going to mark the top point, the bottom point. I'm going off the feet and the skull because I don't want to go off the arms in a standing figure pose. Real life, they move quite a bit, so we don't want to go off points that move, but rather points that are more or less stationed. Now, there seems to be a lot of confusion amongst all the peasant morons regarding methods such as sight size method. What I've heard in some cases is that sight size method, there's a lot of people who are mistakenly, all they're doing is just copying, right? Copying what they see, copying points. They're really not trying to think about the form and all these things. And one of the things that I was taught when I was at the Florence Academy, we learned how to do sight size, we learned how to draw. But these things can take a lot of attention, especially when we're first starting out, right? I mean, it's like when you first start driving, it's going to be very difficult to drive until you get the hang of it. But once you get the hang of it, then you can multitask and do other things, right? And it's kind of the same with drawing. In drawing, we have to learn how to see the figure. We have to learn how to construct it. We have to learn the methods. And that can take away sometimes from really one of the main points, which is the understanding of what we're drawing. So I remember being critiqued relentlessly all the time by my teachers, and they would always come up and say, look, these points are off here, but you need to start thinking about the form. You need to start thinking about the anatomy. Look at this point right here. Look how the light is hitting it. Right? Look at how, for example, the light might be hitting a shoulder, and the shoulder there is sharp because of it. They weren't just saying copy, copy, copy because that's what I see with sight size, or that's what I see with comparative measurements, which, by the way, sight size and comparative measurements should be done at the same time, not separate. You need to be using your brains. Use our brains. We have to be using everything. Sight size in itself is simply a tool. Comparative measurement is an awesome tool, exactly what we need to be doing at every point. The Loomis method is a great way of constructing the figure, right? There's a lot of different ways that we can be going about constructing the figure, and we need to utilize all these ways. But at the same time, we need to be thinking about the form. Now, what exactly, my dear peasants, is form? First off, this space is too thick, so I'm going to bring this in some. What is form, right? Form is, in this case of the standing figures, the anatomical structure, the anatomy of what we are constructing, what we're looking at. That is what form is. And we need to have an understanding of that because that is going to come out in our work. If an artist does not understand what he or she is drawing, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to look like a freaking blob on the paper that's not going to make any sense, and everybody's just going to look at it, stare at it all awkward and silent, and be afraid to tell the artist that that sucks. I've seen that happen several times with other people, of course. It's never happened with my work. But my point being is that even at this stage right here, the blocking stage, and this is what I want to tie in together with you, I am not just thinking, okay, I need to get the points, need to get the width, and this and that. Oftentimes I'll break it down like that for you, right? Because we're trying to learn the method of construction. Like I said before, that takes more brain power to get this method in the very beginning than it does later on once you're a little bit more well versed in it. So if we're students and we're studying these things, it's okay to lose our focus in the beginning in the interest of trying to understand whatever method it is we're using, whether, like I said, let's use the Loomis method, sight size method, whether it's boxing in, whether it's just comparative measurement, whether it's whatever the method is, it's okay to do that. But in the back of our heads, and a good teacher should be telling you, always be doing this, striving to understand the form. So the end game is us drawing all this stuff out and understanding the form at the very end, right? And that understanding is going to be represented in our work. You're going to be able to tell exactly what's happening. So my mentality with this right now, I am trying to go and get the points and stuff, but I'm also really, I'm not drawing this in yet, but I am studying her anatomy, studying the form, and trying to see it right now, so that once I start doing the modeling and the individual work, I'm going to have a better understanding of what I'm looking at. Now, this is a photograph, and photographs, they're compressed in value, actually, in light and dark values. There's a compression of values, and there's also, in a sense, compression to a degree of form and color. And what I mean by that is even the form that we see sometimes isn't accurately represented depending on the lighting and the shifts the photograph has to make. Our eyes can see much more than the photograph, the camera can, but also the color is not picked up, and oftentimes the color is, believe it or not, what makes something turn in reality. So that's also suppressed or compressed just a little bit. In real life, we can stand up and we can walk and look around a model. So there was oftentimes, I remember at the academy, there was a standing figure, and my teacher would ask me to go up and look. For example, if I was looking at them this way, they go around and say, now look at them from the side, so you understand the contour you're drawing. You're not just blindly drawing a shape and putting in a value. Even though those represent form and anatomy, we can tell by the way you're drawing that you're just copying, you're not thinking about it. And that, my friends, is something that should be separate from you shouldn't blame Loomis method or sight size method or any of these methods for it. You might veer into that because you're only focused on doing those methods, but we need to have that holistic mindset the whole time. So in short, we essentially need to be focusing on the anatomy of the figure. So even right now, I'm trying to feel what I'm drawing. I'm feeling this rib cage come over just a little bit, but I'm also trying to observe, right, the proportions and all these things. And this is going to be a little bit off, but here's the key, is that what holds us back in feeling things, what holds us back most of the time, 99% of the time, is the drawing part, because we need practice in drawing. So if you are a beginner, the best thing that you can do that I recommend is that you learn how to draw. And that's why I spend so much time doing these figure drawings, because it frankly seems like I'm always out of practice because I'm always trying to learn these things. But this is what's going to make it easier for you, and you're actually going to have more fun in your work when we're able to think less about the drawing, when we're able to push the drawing forward, when we're able to correct the drawing. We got to be fluid with it, and that way you can spend your time working the anatomy at the same time. So when you get to that stage, I am observing the form within here and trying to see this as an entire shape all at once, right? I'm not drawing in everything that I see, not yet, right? Not yet. That's going to be the top of the head right there. I'm not drawing in yet, but I am observing it, right? And this is something that is very important. So you don't always need to be drawing in everything right from the start, right? But it's the mentality that I am trying to impart to you guys. Do not think that just because you are doing one method or the other, that is going to make it so that you aren't seeing form. Seeing form and understanding form and drawing it in is something to be sought after. It's a mentality that we have to keep as students of art, and all of us are students of art, except for myself because I mastered it a long time ago before I was born. But everybody else, peasants, they have to think about this stuff, right? I never really had to think about it, as you can tell. I never make mistakes, ever. Bring this in just a little bit. I purposefully brought it out so that I would correct this and show you what mere mortals do. I never, in fact, make these mistakes. And so right here, again, I'm thinking about the form 1, 2, 3 coming down. I'm not just copying, I'm literally trying to think of how this goes, and I'm feeling the form in it, right? How this leg's going there. We're constructing the whole thing at once. There's a feeling that you have to have with the legs. After a while, you'll be able to make a lot of this stuff up, but that comes with practice. Practice of solid observation off of live models, and frankly, just looking at a lot of nude pictures, and especially porn. Just kidding, I'm going to edit that out. To self-edit that out in editing, you degenerate bastard. Anyway, we're going to go through here, looking at the shadow shapes here. This area is too big here. That's what she said. So I'm going to bring this out just a little bit. Like that. So we're looking at the negative shape to draw the positive shape and all these things. I'm getting away from myself here because I'm starting to develop this at the same time, or without having put this in. So let's go ahead and put the head up here. So notice right now, let's shift back to the drawing. I am essentially just really trying to put these big straight lines in and trying to see the whole shape at once, but not just see it and copy it. Again, I'm trying to understand it. I really want to understand it, but the reason why I'm blocking this in is so that I can place this properly. This is going to drop down just a little bit like that. Okay, I want to place this properly. That's what I want to do. The head's still probably a little bit too big. It might actually need to come up some. There, the chin's going to be here. The head's going to be here, actually. So this is why we do it. We need to make corrections. And look, let me tell you this. Sometimes it feels good to make things up. And I think as an artist, we should be able to do that. We should be able to make stuff up. But the best advice I can give beginners is, in the beginning, put yourself to cold, hard study and in observation, because otherwise you're not going to know what to exaggerate and accentuate yet, because you are not yet accurate enough to do it right in the first place. So it's going to look very awkward, and that's what a lot of people, if they're lazy, they want to skip the phase of actual hard work and study. I'm very honest person about this stuff. Hard work and study is the name of the game with this. It does take a lot of time to get good at drawing, and I think you need to probably spend a couple hours every single day, at least 2 or 3 at least, if you're going to want to see some solid improvement. But it is definitely doable. Just don't be lazy. Don't be a lazy bastard, which frankly I am a lot of the times, but I'll edit that out as well. Right? We need to constantly be pushing ourselves with this. We can't be lazy, but the best thing that we can do is to work on our drawing skills, right? That is the best thing that we can do. If we get good at drawing and we spend time with the figure and with various poses and such, you're going to create a database of knowledge in your head, right, of anatomy or whatever it is that you're drawing, and you're going to be more easily be able to make things up and to shift things when you need to shift them. And that's a very powerful superpower, if you will, to have, my dear peasants, my dear peasants. So I'm looking at this entire shape right here. Again, we don't just copy. We don't just copy. We think about it. We have to think about what we're doing. Now, again, this takes a lot of time and experience. We draw the whole shape at the same time. So I want to be talking about this concept going forward in a lot of the videos, because I might not make it, I might not have made it that clear. But I do think that it's a mentality, again, thinking and understanding what we're doing despite how we're working it up. If we're using sight size, we should not simply be copying. We need to be looking at the whole thing all at once and understanding it and feeling the form the best that we can. There we go. I'm sculpting with my eraser quite a bit. I draw with my eraser oftentimes more than I do with the pencil. All right, so we're having the main blocking stage here. And what I'm going to be doing, this is for my good friend who watches, who's kind enough to watch me, keep me company during my streaming on Twitch. And he's has a lot of potential as a young artist. My dear boy Jeffrey Livingston IV, the terror of Peru. He's going to be quite something. He was doing this drawing in particular. I'm going to thicken this up. No, I don't really need to. He was doing this drawing, and I thought that this would be a nice drawing to do as I spoke about all this stuff to you guys here. So when we're making these corrections, like I said, you might be thinking, but Louis, how do you not just copy when you're trying to go through and look at the points and look at the widths and all this stuff? Well, my dear peasants, what we have to do is that when we are moving things, we're not just saying, okay, I moved it, so there. We're looking at it and we understand why it has to move, right? Not just because this shape right here was incorrect, which it was, but because this area right here was a little bit more crunched in and it needed to fill out just a little bit, right? Anatomically, we need to see that. And if that needs to change later on down the road, then we can change it, but we're less likely just to change one side of it. We're more likely to understand it and change both sides at once because we're looking at it as an anatomical piece. Now, drawing with straight lines is going to force you to see angles and planes all at once, and we have to understand them at that. Define it like that in your mind. Always think I'm drawing form, I'm drawing the anatomy, I'm drawing planes. Don't just say I'm drawing a line, I'm drawing a shape here, drawing a shape there. You might have to do that at first. Like I said, when we're first learning this stuff, it's very difficult to do. But after a while, we should be able to define this just a little bit better, see the angles properly and understand exactly why there is an angle like that. Everything that we see, there's a reason that we're seeing it the way that we do. It's not just a coincidence, right? This is her anatomy. This is Kat's anatomy. A very good model. She is actually a very good model. She's a very good model, but right here, again, I'm not just drawing these lines in, I'm thinking this is a hand right here, and these are her fingers, and I'm looking at this entire shape as I do this. And I'm trying to I'm seeing all these individual digits, but I'm also just looking very broadly at it because I also know rationally in a constructive manner, constructing the figure, we need to make it very basic so that we can shift it if she needs to be shifted. Here's another thing. This is a photograph, but in real life, she's going to be doing this. So, she's going to be doing that movement. So we're going to have to know how to block things in quickly and very basic in the very beginning so that if she moves over this way some, for example, right? We do this all at once. And I know that's like really extreme, but like we do this and we can erase these other lines and we have a quick shift, right? But what are we doing? Are we just blindly copying? No. And if a model moves like that, it should be something where, first off, you observe and say, is it aesthetically more pleasing? Because you can make an artistic choice off it, whether you want to move it or not. Or is it she's moved because I got the drawing wrong? Or should I move it because she's staying in that position now and she's been that way for the last 40 minutes? You make these conscious decisions. Never just be an idiot and just follow along and just draw what you see. Which brings me into my next point. The artistic decisions that artists can make, especially down the road. This is actually too big right here, and this might be a little bit off. So this drawing isn't, and this is wrong. Son of a bitch. Making artistic decisions. Those are decisions that we make down the road. Once we know our craft, we know what to do, right? So, like I said, when we're first studying, we want to be learning the technique, learning exactly how to draw, how to see. We need to train our minds and our eyes to see. And then once we know how to do that to a degree where it's not distracting us so much that we can't focus on other things, you can start thinking about those other things. You can start making little accents here and there. Like, for example, this one, if I want, it might not be this way, but I can just accent this a little bit or exaggerate that just a little bit just to give her a little bit more of a crook because it might be something where she's dancing in a painting that I'm doing. Michelangelo did this with his figures, made them, like really strong and just jacked. With the women too, which was slightly concerning, I will not deny that. But however, he did do it. He made the artistic decision. And for the most part, I think we can all concur, if you will, that he actually was very well versed in anatomy as evidenced by his statues and David and so on and so forth. But getting back to this, you can make artistic decisions as well. But even at the earliest stage, I'm speaking all of this as I block this in, even at this early stage, we can be thinking about these things, observing and studying the figure. They're called figure studies. That's what we're doing. We're studying the figure here. All right? So, never just copy. And if you are doing sight size, it does not matter what you are doing. Sight size method, Loomis method, you should be thinking about the anatomy and the form and coming up with a game plan in your head. Right? Now, again, let me reiterate, if you are first starting, you might not be able to do this right now, but that's okay. A good teacher will always help you get back on that path and get you into that mentality. I remember just being torn apart once. I was painting a painting. It was already a masterpiece, obviously. And one of my good friends, really amazing artist, Joachim Eriksson, came up to me and gave me a really solid lesson and said, look, he said, I really respect you. I think you are the best artist, even better than myself. Can I talk to you? I said, sure, give me a second, let me deal with my clients. But after all that stuff, he said that the painting that I was doing of a face, the forehead itself, it did not have the structure, the solidity, because he said, you've copied the values, you've copied the light impression, all that's fine, but it does not have the structure, it doesn't have that solidity because you weren't looking at it. You need to be looking at how the light's hitting the forehead and how it's just spreading across and falling down the face and how there's form here and this anatomy here and this anatomy here. And then you had, jackass Andy Amaral right next to me, who's an anatomical master genius, mastermind bastard, telling me, yeah, like this and that. So, I mean, in other words, I had to repaint something that was essentially correct in a manner with solid brush strokes that when you step back, your eye pulls everything in together, but when you look up close, the brush strokes are in fact there. You can see the brush strokes. But what that did, it gave it solidity and form because it accurately expressed the planes and everything. And that was done using the sight size method, but that calls for a modicum of understanding of what you're looking at. You have to seek looking at the form with that. So again, in your studies, never just blindly go about doing this stuff, right? You don't want to blindly just copy what you have done. So guys, at this point right here, there's a lot of correcting that needs to be done, a lot of correcting. So normally what I would do, I would keep it right here, but for the sake of the video, I said I wanted to get to the shadow shapes. She's kind of a mutant right now. Probably the legs might be a little bit too long. There's a lot of things that are wrong. But I want to get to the shadow shapes really quick, and I'm going to block the shadow shapes in really quick so that y'all know exactly how to do this. You've been watching my technique. One of the main things is to keep a sharp pencil, as you can see right here. Boom! Sharp pencil, long pencil, right? I'm going to lightly squint down, and I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to think about what I'm doing here. I'm going to wisp, right? I'm going to take some time. I'm going to wisp some lines in here. These are the shadow shapes. So at this stage, when we get in the very basic blocking stage, these lines around here, for the most part, are a little bit sharper. And I haven't really gone and modeled this that much yet, but we're keeping them a little bit sharper, right? And then the inside, we're gonna kind of fuzz it up a little bit. But notice I'm not turning it on the side where it's doing one of these marks. That kills it. I have a very sharp pencil to do this, but I am really just taking my time and blocking this in. And this is how I'm looking. I'm squinting down as I do this. So I'm unifying these shapes right here. I'm also studying the anatomy, thinking about the planes. Okay? I'm doing this and understanding that this right here, all of this denotes how the form is turned down away from the light source, which is obviously up top here. And then it's just raking down, and you have a unified flow of light starting from up here, and it trickles down here. These are the things that I'm thinking about. I'm not just thinking, okay, look, there's a shape right there, draw it. Oh my gosh, I don't understand what it means, but it's okay because it's fun. I like this, I'm shading. You know, we're not thinking about that. and the breast from here. This line right here is normally a little bit sharper. Let's measure it off here. This shape right here, this probably drops a little bit. If this is here, then this is going to be here-ish. And again, my eyes, right? Sharp, focused. I totally know what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Just with being on, this is going to be a softer edge up top. Okay? Softer edge up top, and then we have kind of the booby. Oh, it's coming here. This is going to be definitely a little bit softer. And I'm just going to kind of, I don't need to like necessarily connect it. Maybe I just put like a little bit of mark right there, and then this piece right here. I'm going to see this light shape right here. And I'm thinking about the anatomy again. Let's look at this entire shape, and we're going to put this in. I'm going to put a little accent there, and I'm looking at this width right here, and that informs me that this in fact needs to come over just a little bit here. So I'm just going to do that, making it a little bit sharper there, and then we can kind of fuzz it out coming down. And here's the beauty of this, is that everything that I'm doing right now is so freaking light, right? So freaking light that I can, in fact, erase this whole thing if I want to, but what it says is I can correct this if I want, right? I can really correct these points, right? So we're just very basically blocking this in. So this is essentially how we get the breasts. And a good rule of thumb is it's very helpful to draw this while you squint so that you can still see your lines when you squint. I see oftentimes people drawing the lines way too light, and so when you squint, you can't really see it, right? And so you don't necessarily want that. As we can kind of put an accent here. Look, the main thing is, I don't care what you're doing, you gotta get the boobs right, all right? You gotta get them right. From up here, we're just going to, I know we have all this information up here, but let's just block that in very basic. Same here. And then we can kind of have this, the bottom of the chin, there's the nose, there's the mouth, nose, and then we have the nose here, which actually probably, you know what the nose needs. I'm being so dumb, oh my gosh. See, this is why we do it light. Let's go ahead and we're gonna put the eyes in. I'm just gonna mark through the eyes right there. The nose is gonna be here. The next there, ear to ear. So we're kind of just like doing this all at once, aren't we? And then this is going to be the chin. This is why we do it very, very simple, very basic. Just kind of mark that in. The mouth is going to be somewhere here. The chin's going to drop down just a little bit. Yeah, the chin definitely drops down just a little bit. So it makes room for the mouth, right? So we're just keeping this very light, very simple. So those are the eyes, and then we're going to get the top piece right here. And then falling down from the nose, 1, 2, and we're just going to do the sunglass look for now. How about that? We'll just keep it very basic and simple. Sunglass look. I'm just squinting down. Just trying to get these eye sockets in. This actually comes over some. You know, some days, look, here's the thing, is that some days you draw better than others, but you always know how to at least correct it. And so it might take you longer to get that point, but you will eventually lock it into place, right? So again, we're thinking about the form here. The head, okay, this is coming here. Like I said, there's still a lot that I need to change. There's really a lot of stuff that still needs to be fixed. This comes in some. And then we're just going to cut this out like that. There's still a lot that needs to be fixed. But again, we are studying form. We're trying to understand it. Let's make this very soft coming up here. This is soft. Okay? And we're going with the form right now. Going across it would be like that, which I like to do a combination of it because it's really a good way to turn the form to make it look more sculptural and stuff. We're thinking about how her deltoid and her chest muscle are kind of coming up like this, and then this is coming here. So there's a degree of sculpting we can do even at the very basic level block, and the hands are kind of lagging behind. Let's actually define what's, or the forearms are lagging behind. Let's define what's happening here. Drawing with the eraser, bring it there. This part comes down just a little bit, and then we're going to hatch this part off because I forgot to do that before. Something like that. Okay, so that's in the ballpark there. And then I messed it up again. So I'll go through and fix it again. Boom! There we go. And we're just blocking this form, and very soft, very soft. So here's the thing, once we get it to this stage right here, right, where it's just like, you know, we have everything very basic, right? You got the knees here if we want. We have everything very basic. We can, at this point, we can move these lines around as well, and we can use these basic lines to get the anatomy and such, right? But once we're at this stage right here, like that's what I would recommend is keep it here, keep it at this stage, right? Keep it at this stage right here. And then I would try to correct these shapes, right? And again, I'm just squinting down, just trying to see broadly everything that's going on. We don't need to get like every single little detail in here, right? We don't need to do that. So this is how I would go about doing this. And then there's actually some light coming up here, but I'm gonna make it soft. So we don't wanna make it like too sharp or anything, but we have to understand this like in our brains as planes, right? This is how we're doing it. Let me do this because this is just gonna make it look a little bit nicer. The head just is freaking horrible, but that's okay, right? We spend the time with it. This is an exercise. I'm not getting as accurate as I would. Like I said, I skipped the stage where I kind of have it in the blocking stage and correct it for the sake of showing you guys how this is done here. So that, my friends, is essentially the basic blocking. Like we don't even need to get these pieces in, but if we do, you know, say we figure out this is correct, you have this coming in here, right? 1, 2, out like that. This comes in just a little bit, and then this one's always going to be a little bit higher up and kind of breaking in a little bit more like that. And then we can start doing that little thing where we shape, you know, shape the legs and such, but we can sculpt it as such. Now, technique-wise, again, I was working with this sharp pencil. In fact, I'm going to take a quick break and sharpen this really fast, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a light shadow in, like just shade it in and show you exactly how I want you to do it and why. All right, so now that we have this sharp, this is the sharp pencil right here. This is extremely sharp. Sharp. We're going to take this and say we've corrected this and these proportions are correct. Again, I'm not putting it flat like this. I'm bringing it up like this. I'm holding the pencil out. This is how I've been holding my pencil the whole time. It's holding it out just like this. And I'm just going to, very simple at first, right? Squint down and just shade this in. And it should be a very fine dusting, if you will, what we're looking at, right? A fine dusting, yes, yes. So we just continuously go over this right here. And I normally like to just go outside the legs just like this, okay? And just go kind of light. And we can go in with the eraser afterwards. But this is essentially how I like to go about shading. Okay? Okay? There. There we go. And we can always go back in, try to move that. We can always go back in and sharpen. By the way, this is a 2B pencil that we're working with. Isn't it? Yes. There we go. Just keep it soft. I'm not taking forever to do this. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back in and clean it up with the eraser. Right? So again, this is a hatching technique. It's just going in one direction. A cross hatching would be crossing through, which I like to do a combination of the two. There we go. So guys, at this stage, we can go from here and continue to correct, right? Everything that's going on. Let's go and fill this leg in, and then we'll clean it up just a little bit, and afterwards we're gonna have a nice, even block in of everything. If y'all want to see more full process of what I do live stream my work on Twitch, which is a streaming platform Those of you who are older might not know it, but it's primarily for gaming, but there's also people who do stream their artwork there. So here, I'm not going to worry too much about the form or expressing the form that much right now, but it is important to understand it, and then we're going to go in with the interest of finding the form. But I live stream my work on Twitch, and so if you want to see the full process, interact with me. If you have any questions, that's where you can find me, aside from these videos here, because these are quicker videos. But anyway, so this, my friends, is how I go about it. And if you notice at this point, see, the reason why you want it finely shaded, and I really didn't take that long. I just tightened the lines up some. But at this point, we can, if you want to, like for example down here, you can sculpt those lines out, right? We can bring them in, we can bring them out, and they're smooth enough, right? That they're high enough resolution where it'll actually form a shape there, like for example the leg, right? So let's fix, I don't have a line there, so I can in fact hatch that in just like that and form the leg. Do you see that? Look at that. It's not perfect, but that's kind of how we can use the shadows. And at this stage, we're thinking of them three-dimensionally. We're trying to understand what we're looking at. It's very basic right now, but we need to, like I said, be striving to feel what we're doing, feel the work. And then obviously, guys, at this stage, we continue to correct. We keep it in very simple stage. We move the shapes around. But like I said, always keep that understanding, that mentality of form and structure in your work. And if you do that, you strive to do it, you're going to find yourself that you're losing that feeling that you're just copying this, you're copying that. Go back and always remind yourself to get that form back. And eventually it's going to start coming out in your work. Because for me, it's very shocking to hear people saying that they do site size, but it doesn't help them with form. And I can kind of understand the mentality where they're coming from with that. It's just the reason why it's shocking is because like I said, I remember my teachers were always talking about form, and site size had nothing to do with it. It was whether or not we were looking at it. It's not that I had to use site size to place every little thing. It's just you're always standing back and looking and observing and placing it properly. And then you might use site size in some large checkpoints to check it out and stuff, but you don't want to use it mindlessly like a robot just to copy and paste the stuff down. That's not what an artist does, and that's not a good way to train yourself as a painter. So what I want y'all to do is take this information, go out, you younglings, practice this stuff, and then come back and you can one day perhaps teach me. Luis Gadetti, out, bitch.